Who is better, the Dallas Cowboys or the Philadelphia Eagles? Sunday Night Football, Week 7, will determine who is the better team in the NFC East, at least for now. But in this video, I'm going to determine position by position who is the more talented football team, who is the more talented quarterback, who's better on the offensive line, the wide receiver position, linebacker, corner, safety. Every position I will break down and determine who is the more talented team in the NFC East and who is the best team in the NFC East before Sunday's showdown. But before I do, make sure that you Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. I want to hear from you guys. Who do you believe is the better team in the NFC East? Who is the best team in the NFC East? Is it Dak's Cowboys or is it Carson's Eagles? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you disagree, give me a good argument for why you disagree. Let's get right into the video, starting with the quarterback position. Dak Prescott of the Cowboys, Carson Wentz of the Eagles. Both have played 6 games so far this season. Dak Prescott surprisingly has the lead in the yards category by over 400 yards. 1,800 yards passing so far on the season for Dak Prescott, 1,400 for Carson Wentz. But Carson Wentz has thrown 1 more touchdown and 3 less interceptions. Dak does have 1 more rushing touchdown and 50 more yards rushing. Dak is a better scrambler, although that Carson Wentz can scramble as well himself. Dak also has the better passer rating on the season, but when it comes to quarterback play, I have to give it to Carson Wentz. As much as Dak played well early in the season, I think he did really play well versus some lackluster defenses and opponents early on, and that's really where he was able to pad his stats overall. When you look at Carson Wentz games, though, he's made some miraculous plays, specifically on 3rd down, where the Eagles are so good. They're in the top 5 on 3rd down. I believe they rank 3rd overall this season, and a lot of that is due to Carson Wentz's playmaking ability. Carson Wentz, he fights through traffic. He's got a big arm. He's pretty accurate, and his ability to just make plays when he needs to is, I think, what separates him from Dak. Dak does have his strengths. I do like Dak. He is a good leader. He's a good runner. He's tough. He can take a hit. He'll hang in the pocket, and at times when he's on, he's on. But overall, Carson Wentz has shown a peak ability that I think is just slightly above what Dak has ever shown at the quarterback position. Where Wentz was once almost an MVP, Dak has never shown that. So I'm going to give this category to Carson Wentz so far this season. At the running back position, this one to me is clearly going to the Cowboys, even though I do not believe that Zeke has had his best season so far. In 6 games, he has 491 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, 139 yards receiving on 18 receptions. Pretty good numbers, but overall, Zeke does not look like Zeke at 100%. When Zeke is on fire, when Zeke is really rolling and eating, he is one of, if not the best running back in football. And to me, he's just missing a little bit of a gear. He's missing a little bit of that second effort that I haven't really quite seen from him this season. But I would still say that 90% of Zeke, or 85% of what Zeke has been out of his usual 100%, is better than what the Eagles have at this position. Miles Sanders is a promising young back, 199 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, 13 receptions, 219 yards, and a touchdown receiving. That area of the game has really been his strength so far this year, and that's really where the Eagles have utilized him most. Jordan Howard leads the team in rushing with 297 yards on 4.5 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns on the season. He, though, is not much of a pass catcher with only 47 yards on the season, only 6 catches. Now, Clement, Sproles, those guys are both hurt, but I don't think it really matters. Zeke is a one-man show at the running back position for the Cowboys. He can do it all, whether that's catch the ball at the backfield, take a screen, take the handoff, inside, outside, great vision, good strength inside, and the ability to carry the load, which no running back on the Eagles has. First, second, and third down type of guy. So I'm going to give it to the Cowboys overall, but I would like to see Zeke up his level of play just a little bit. At the wide receiver / tight end position, this is probably the most difficult to break down overall because the Cowboys are quite injured at this position right now. Amari Cooper and Randall Cobb and even Michael Gallup are all on the injury report. Now, Michael Gallup is kind of the most minor of all of them. Cooper may not play this Sunday. He is expected to play, but he might not. And Cobb missed their last game. When factoring in those three plus tight end Jason Witten, it's pretty good competition for one of the deepest units in the NFL in Philadelphia. Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, who's only played one game this year and is probably not going to play in this game. Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. They have numerous names here. If the full group of the Cowboys suits up, Cooper, Gallup, Cobb, Witten, I think they're better than Jeffrey, Aguilar, Ertz, and Goddard. But if Deshaun Jackson were to be added to the lineup, then I would probably say that the Eagles have a slight advantage just because of the pure amount of depth that they have. Plus, they have that deep threat that they're missing. I've been super impressed with Amari Cooper this season. 33 catches, 515 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Michael Gallup has broken out with 24 catches, 387 yards, and a touchdown. But because of the advantage at tight end that I think is pretty big for the Eagles, they have more versatility and more personnel sets due to that tight end versatility. And then with the amount of receivers they have, Alshon Jeffrey is not too shabby himself with 3 touchdowns on the year. I have to give the slight advantage to the Eagles, although I have loved what I've seen from the top 2 guys of Dallas. On the offensive line, this is also one of the toughest positions to argue or to factor into this who is better argument because 2 guys for Dallas are injured. Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, they're both banged up. Now, they both might play this Sunday, but they probably won't be playing at 100%. So I have to factor that into my mind. When looking at it, though, when those guys have played, they've both been top 10 by PFF for their position. Martin is 3rd as well, and Frederick is 15th. So they have 4 guys within the top 15 on the offensive line. Looking at the Eagles, they have 2 top 10 tackles as well in Lane Johnson and Peters. Brooks is 2nd at his position at guard, and Kelsey is 9th at the center position. So overall, both offensive lines have 4 really good players, Pro Bowl caliber type players, while they have 1 weak link. I have to give the advantage just due to pure health to the Eagles. The Eagles are healthier. They have not shown really that they're banged up in any way or hurt in any way. And because of that, I will say that they are the better offensive line right now or going into this game. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the football. Crawford is out for the season on the defensive line for the Cowboys. That's a big loss in terms of their depth. Malik Jackson is out for the season for the Eagles. He's been out for a while. They've been able to adjust. Timmy Jernigan has taken his place. He's been a little banged up as well. Ridgeway, Spence have also seen time in the interior of their defensive line, ranking 86th and 105th by PFF. Fletcher Cox is their stud, though, ranking again in the top 10 at 7 by PFF. When I look at this position, this is one of the more obvious to me. I think this is easily the Eagles. Cox is just so much better than anybody that the Cowboys have, whether that's Collins, Woods, or Covington. Those guys are okay. They're solid. They're NFL starters, but none of them are all-pro caliber players like Fletcher Cox. Also, the Eagles have one of the best run defenses in the league, so I side with the Eagles on the defensive line. The edge position is another one that's super tight. The Cowboys have DeMarcus Lawrence, who I would say is the best player of all of the players on either the Eagles or the Cowboys at this position. He has not played like DeMarcus Lawrence, though. He has not played like one of the highest paid players in the NFL so far this season. He has 2.5 sacks, but I would like to have seen more. The guy that actually has played that way is surprisingly Robert Quinn, who has 5 sacks on the season and has been consistently getting after quarterbacks. Armstrong, Hyder, those guys are decent depth for the Cowboys. They've also had some injuries at this position. When flipping it to the Eagles side, Brandon Graham does rank 5th overall at the PFF rankings for this position. 4 sacks on the season, which is better than DeMarcus Lawrence. And I guess you could say he's been a better performer this season. Where I would say Brandon Graham is the best out of all these players is definitely in run defense. Barnett has been a little disappointing, ranking only 96th. Curry is a run defender at 28th, and Sweat is a younger guy at 35th. Now, the depth for the Eagles, I think, is slightly better. But because of the duo of Lawrence and Quinn, and with Quinn playing so well, I am going to give the slight advantage to the Cowboys because I do think that one of the weaker areas of the Eagles has been their pass rush, which I think the edge position is to blame. So I'm going to give this to the Cowboys. At the linebacker position, this one is to me one of the more obvious. Jalen Smith, Van Der Esch, and Lee are one of the best trios in the league. And they continue to play well. They have not played quite as well as they did last year, but they're still elite, especially Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. And Sean Lee's one of the best third linebackers in the league, one of the smartest defensive players in the league. The Eagles just did cut one of their starters, Zach Brown. He's gone, so that does hurt this group because overall they lost a little bit of depth there. But Bradham's their best linebacker. Jerry has been pretty impressive overall, and Grugier Hill is not bad depth as well, but I have to give this to the all-pro Pro Bowl caliber linebackers of Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch at the linebacker position. So Cowboys, they get this position. At the corner position, this is easy. This is the Cowboys. Any Eagles fans that tell me their corners are better than the Cowboys, they are absolutely crazy. The Eagles have allowed the most fantasy points to receivers this year. That's because their corners suck, okay? They've given up a lot of big plays. They get beat on double moves consistently. They are left out to dry by their coordinator in Schwartz, so I'm not necessarily blaming them 100%, but these guys are just not very good. Jones has not proven to be any good, ranking 81st by PFF so far this year, and cannot stay consistently healthy. Douglas is a borderline NFL cornerback. Skandrick is the very same, and he signed out of desperation, the former Cowboy. And they have 4 injuries at this position, including their 2 best in Mills and Darby, LeBlanc and Maddox as well, who would probably both be starting over Jones or Douglas, to be quite honest with you. So they're really, really banged up in the secondary. But even if these guys were healthy, I would still say the Cowboys have the better unit. Byron Jones, to me, is an elite corner in the league. He does a really good job versus a majority of the number 1 receivers. He is ranked 35th this season. He is banged up, though. He might not even play in this game, so watch out for that. Brown, as well, is pretty good. Lewis is playing pretty well, and Awuzie probably could play better. I think he's kind of been a little bit... I'd like to see better from him. He's been a little disappointing overall. But I have to say that the 4 corners of the Cowboys, or the corner depth chart of the Cowboys, is better than the Eagles. If not just because they have the best corner, but also I feel like they have the best trio, even if the Eagles would be healthy. So I'm going to go with the corner position to the Cowboys. The safety position, the last of the players here, that is the Eagles. Now, the Cowboys, they don't have a bad safety group with Heath and Woods and Thompson, but the Eagles, Malcolm Jenkins, he's just a pro's pro. He is so smart in the back end. He gets their secondary in the right situation. He's kind of like the traditional middle linebacker. He's the guy that calls out defenses. He's the guy that really leads the group, and he's a huge part of their defense. McLeod is pretty good as well, although he's been burnt in situations this season. And Sendejo, he's done his job. He's lacking a little bit of athleticism, but overall a smart safety. I would have to say that the Eagles have the better trio here, or the better group of safeties, and I think it's by a pretty big margin. Special teams. Now, the kicking for both teams has been pretty solid. I would have to give it to Elliott and the Eagles in the special teams category. They have a slightly better returning from their team because the Cowboys really, their returning has been a little bit non-existent. Punting has been okay. for both teams, I would say. I think Elliott is just a more consistent kicker than Maher is. Even though, Maher has been good at times, he's also very inconsistent. In one game, he'll make a 55-yarder, and then he'll miss a 37-yarder. That's just the way he kicks. That's just the way he is. He's very up and down. But Elliott, he's more consistent. And that's the type of guy that I want kicking for my football team. So I'm going to say the Eagles better overall from a special teams perspective because their returning is better and their kicking is a little bit more consistent. Finishing it off with the coaching, I have to give this easily to the Eagles. Not only is Doug Peterson a Super Bowl winner where he was very bold in that game and is known for his decision-making and game planning in that game, but Jason Garrett, I think he's one of these coaches that's an anchor to his football team. Really is hurting his overall football team, hurting the talent of his team. And Doug Peterson, he's a great motivator. He's a good offensive coach. Wouldn't call him great, but good. And just knows how to get the best out of his players at the right moments in the right time. Jason Garrett, I don't think he's a horrible coach, but he is not at the level of Doug Peterson, who so far in his NFL career has been a great coach. And I would say he's in the top 5 for the best head coaches in football right now. Overall, the better team, the more talented team at the end of the day, in my opinion right now, is the Eagles. Despite the Cowboys winning 3 categories on defense, and a lot of these categories being very close, I have to give it to the Eagles. So, the Eagles take this one on the who is better in the NFC East, the Cowboys or the Eagles. Hope you guys enjoy the Sunday Night Football game. Let me know in the comment section below who you believe is better, more talented, the Eagles or the Cowboys. Thanks for watching. It's been Mitch. Peace out.